Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, our mission is pretty laser-focused.
Yeah.
We're going to take all this information swirling around the Hunter class reworks for Midnight and just boil it down to what you actually need to know to play.
Exactly.
Sure.
This is your shortcut because these changes, they're fundamental. The whole goal was to get rid of that complexity where you needed, a spreadsheet and 3 add-ons just to track your buffs.
Right. And the result is that all 3 specs feel completely new. You're going to have to relearn some muscle memory here.
Oh, for sure.
Okay, so let's start with the class-wide stuff first, because there are some really nice quality of life changes that hit every single hunter. First up, Corsair Tether.
Yeah, this is a big one. The tether is now universal. It's not locked into a single hero talent path anymore.
Which is huge. That just gives you so much more flexibility right out of the gate.
It does. It means you get a really strong piece of utility no matter what you choose later on. And speaking of helping out, we also got a survivability boost.
Which we have been asking for forever. And the first one is called Touch of Grass. I love that name.
I know, right? The meme is real. It's just a flat 10% increase to your health. Simple, but so needed. And that's paired with another one, Shell Wall, which makes aspect of the turtle actually feel like a real defensive.
As it should be. I mean, if you're using a button that stops you from attacking, it better make you feel basically immune.
Exactly. It finally delivers on that promise. And while we're on utility, a couple of nice pet things too. Guardian's Height is great, especially for marksmanship.
Because the alpha pet doesn't really have health in the same way, right?
Right. So this just removes any worry about your pet dying. And then there's Gut Roller, which I think is going to be quietly amazing.
It turns the pet stun into an AoE stun. A small one, but still.
It's a weak stun, yeah, but think about dungeons. Being able to interrupt 2 or 3 casters at once with one button, that's a lifesaver.
Okay, that's a great baseline. So now let's jump into the specs. And we have to start with Marksmanship. This seems to be the one getting the most, let's say, polarizing changes.
I think polarizing is the right word. The whole philosophy here was to make every single shot count. But to do that, they had to remove a really foundational talent.
Streamline.
Streamline is gone. And for anyone who's played MM, you know that was the engine. That's what made the spec feel fluid and fast.
So the immediate takeaway is, aim shot is slow now. Like, noticeably slower to cast.
It is. It's a very deliberate change in rhythm. It can feel clunky at first, but here's where it gets really interesting. The compensation.
The damage.
The damage. Aim shot's raw damage was massively buffed to make up for that slow cast. It went from something like, 500% of attack power?
Yeah, around 503%.
And now, in Midnight, it's sitting at 700% attack power. Straight up.
Wow. Okay, so that's not a small tweak. That's a huge jump.
Yeah.
So while the shot is slower, when it lands, it feels incredibly impactful.
It feels meaty. You're not a machine gun anymore. You're a high-caliber sniper rifle. And that means you have to commit to that cast. If you get interrupted, it's a huge loss.
It changes how you have to position yourself then. You really need to find those windows to stand still and get that shot off.
Exactly. Now, they also streamlined some other things. Explosive shot is gone.
Right. The only thing left is that salvo talent.
And the lock and load proc, which is so crucial, that's now tied to volley through the shrapnel shot talent.
So you're using your AoE to set up your single target burst.
That's the idea. But this is where it gets a little complicated again, with the new Apex talents.
Right, because the goal was simplification, but there's this one talent, Hunter's Reap, that feels like it adds a whole new layer of RNG.
It really does. So you have Blood Impact, which is a pretty simple bleed effect, but then Hunter's Reap says when you use one of your 3 Apex procs, you have a 25% chance to just get one of the other 2 for free.
Wait. So on top of the randomness of Black Arrow procs, we're now adding another 25% chance for a different proc to happen.
Yes.
That feels like 1 step forward on pruning buffs and 2 steps back on consistency.
It's the big tension point. It removes the complexity of tracking tiny buffs, but it replaces it with the complexity of, unpredictable damage spikes. Your damage profile can swing wildly based on dice rolls.
Let's talk about the hero talents, because Sentinel seems to fit this new philosophy perfectly.
It's the natural choice. Sentinel's Mark boosts aim shot damage, and the capstone, Lunar Storm, has a huge quality of life change. You don't track a timer anymore.
Oh, thank goodness.
Instead, it just does its damage when you consume the mark. Simple. You also get Moonlight Chakram, which is the old ability, and you can choose to have it explode for AoE or grant you a lock and load proc.
Okay, but we have to talk about the trap, the no-scope talent. You mentioned it can lead to buff munching. Can you break that down for us?
For sure. So buff munching is when you accidentally overwrite a powerful buff you haven't used yet. So imagine you fire a big aimed shot. That gives you a precise shots buff.
Right, and you want to use that on a specific ability.
Exactly. But if you have no scope talented and you fire, say, a multi-shot for AoE, you risk consuming that precise shots buff on the wrong target, or even worse, overwriting it entirely.
Ah, so you're throwing away damage because the sequence is wrong. You're filling up a cup that's already full.
Perfectly put. For a new player, it's super counterintuitive, and they could be losing a ton of damage without even realizing why. It feels like MM traded one kind of headache for another.
Okay, that makes perfect sense.
That's right.
So if marksmanship is the slow, complex sniper, let's pivot to the complete opposite end of the spectrum, beast mastery. The spec that's been simplified, maybe a little too much.
That's a very fair way to put it. They basically took the central minigame of BM and just deleted it. I'm talking about barbed shot.
It no longer applies the frenzy buff.
It doesn't. The whole gameplay loop of maintaining 3 stacks of frenzy for pet attack speed, gone. Completely gone.
But that was the entire source of skill expression for the spec.
Yeah.
Managing your charges to keep that buff rolling that was the game.
It was. And now that attack speed buff is just a passive 2-point talent you pick up and forget about, and the implication is huge. The rotation now feels incredibly passive.
So you still have the zoo fantasy of all the pets, but the actual decision-making is gone.
Largely, yes. And it's not just that. Barb Shot also no longer reduces the cooldown of Bestial Wrath.
So the cooldowns are decoupled.
They are. The cooldown reduction for Bestial Wrath is its own separate talent now. So your big offensive buttons are on a much more fixed, predictable schedule. There's less dynamic play.
And multi-shot is gone for AoE too.
Replaced by Wild Thrash. It's an 8-second cooldown burst AoE. You press that, and it applies Beast Cleave for 8 seconds. So your AoE focus is now just hitting that one button on cooldown.
And the other big cooldown, Call of the Wild, that's gone too. Replaced by something called Bloodshed.
Bloodshed is the new big button. It applies a strong bleed and makes you summon more dire beasts. And a lot of the old talents now just buff Bloodshed. Like Barb Shot's bleed ticks 100% faster during Bloodshed.
And for AoE.
There's a talent, Wild Instincts, that makes your pet's stom automatically apply Barb Shot to new enemies. So you don't even have to tab target to spread your bleeds anymore.
So how do the hero talents play with this?
Well, Dark Ranger gets Black Arrow, and using Bloodshed procs a Wailing Arrow, which is a cool AoE silence. Pack Leader gets Stampede back as a capstone.
Okay.
But here's the weird part. The Stampede requires the beasts to spawn in a straight line between you and the target.
In a line. For a spec that's all about moving around freely, that seems totally against the entire philosophy of simplification.
It's a very strange constraint. It requires this careful positioning that BM players just are not used to. But honestly, the overall rotation is just so simple now. You hit kill command, you spend your barb shot charges, and you press your big cooldowns. It's very passive.
All right, let's move on to our final spec, survival. And the feedback on this one has been almost universally positive. It seems like SV has finally found its big, satisfying moment.
It absolutely has, and it's all thanks to one ability.
The boomstick.
The boomstick.
This is the high-impact button survival has been searching for. It does incredible damage. You're talking ticks of like 300,000 damage. It is your big red button you just want to press all the time.
That's a crazy number. So how does it create that rotational high?
It's all about the feedback loop. When you use Wildfire Bomb on a group of enemies, it dramatically reduces the cooldown of Boomstick. So you're constantly chaining your bombs into these massive, short cooldown shotgun blasts.
So the whole rotation just becomes about fueling the Boomstick.
100%. And it's just so much. I know it's thematically a little weird. You're a melee hunter with a spear, and your biggest button is a giant gun.
It's totally wacky. You're stabbing things 1 second, then you pull out a cannon the next. Thematically wacky, yes, but the player feedback is just, people love it. It feels epic. It's so powerful. It completely overshadows abilities that used to be the centerpiece, like Fury of the Eagle.
And what about the filler abilities? Do they feel good too?
They do. Raptor Swipe feels satisfying, and Takedown is a nice high damage button on a short 1-minute cooldown. Mongoose Fury is still there, stacking up to 3. Even Hunter's Mark actually feels useful for setting up priority damage.
It really sounds like survival is the big winner here. You got that high impact feel without sacrificing the engagement of the rotation.
It absolutely found the sweet spot, and we've seen some weirdly high auto attack damage too, so it feels strong even in the gaps. Survival just feels focused and powerful now.
So let's tie this all together. Based on that original goal of simplicity and impact, how friendly are these new specs for a new player?
The outcomes are just incredibly different. Beast Mastery is now extremely simple, probably the easiest spec in the game to pick up. If you want to focus on mechanics and never worry about your rotation, it's perfect. But it has very little depth that kind of plays itself.
And marksmanship?
is tougher. It traded one type of complexity for another. That slow-aimed shot rhythm feels jarring, and with traps like the no-scope talent, a new player could really struggle to play it well without realizing they're making mistakes.
So that leaves survival.
Survival, I think, is the perfect balance. The rotation is clear, it's focused around boomstick, and it's just incredibly satisfying. It's the spec I would recommend to any new player who wants to jump into Hunter and feel powerful right away.
So the class as a whole has been pruned. Complexity has been traded for impact. But where you land on that trade-off is, well, it's very different for each spec.
Absolutely. The class is more approachable overall, but your long-term satisfaction is really going to depend on what you're looking for.
And that leads us to our final thought for you to chew on. With a spec like Beast Mastery now being so simple that most decision-making is gone, does a class actually need complexity to keep you engaged long-term? Or is the pure visual fantasy of commanding your personal zoo enough to keep you playing?
Something to think about when you get your hands on it in midnight. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
I will catch you next time.